Hey guys, thank you for tuning in. And the first plant in our list, which can be a flowering plant indoor, is gonna be this gorgeous Centorium plant. So this plant is really a very low maintenance plant. Does not need a lot of your time, but can give like very pretty blooms like this. This is a gorgeous red color bloom, and these are actually just modified leaves of the plant. The actual flower is this stalk that is coming out, but anyhow, we look at this modified leaf, which is gorgeous and very beautiful, very shiny. Let me try to remove this leaf. This is a very shiny red color. This got split a little because this is a ginormous size that was coming out, and I think it got stuck when it was trying to open. And right now you can see I have like this bloom on my plant, this one. There is a third one hiding in here. Let me try to show you. This is the third one. This is the third one that's coming out, and there are also two tiny ones that are trying to come out. So pick it up and show you. So this is another one, and this is the fifth one that's coming out. So to take care of this plant, you really don't need to do much. The only thing, if you want to see lots of blooms in this plant, is that it needs lot of indirect sunlight. In my case, what is happening, I have a south and a west facing window. So the problem with me is the kind of light that I get is pretty harsh. So this plant will do very good if you keep it directly on an east or a north facing window. It will give you lots of blooms, and there will be no sunburns like this on the leaves. In my case, since I have south and west facing window, and it's on the directly on the windowsill that I have put my plant, I see some of the sun stress or sunburns on my plant here. But that's okay. These are older leaves, and I can just chop this section which are burnt, and this plant is doing pretty well. I'm trying to put it in like behind a sheer curtain or something, but I kind of right now don't have that space. So if you have a south or a west facing window, try to give a kind of a barrier between the direct sunlight and this plant, but try to keep it in as much light as possible, not direct sunlight. The place that I have chosen for this plant is with the netted section of the window, so at least it gets a little bit of diffused light, but it needs a lot of sunlight. But the leaves that are facing behind the direct side of the window, they're doing good. There's no sunburn, they're huge, and they're pretty okay. Another part is watering. So for watering, you just need to make sure that you keep the soil moist, and for this I have just used the regular potting mix that come in the package, and I just water it when I see first 2 to 3 inches of this plant or this pot going dry. That's when I water this plant. So I just kind of stick my finger in, and if the soil sticks, I don't water the plant. And it needs moist, never let it go bone dry. For fertilization, I use the liquid seaweed fertilizer. I pretty much use for all my indoor plants. So for this one also I use my liquid seaweed fertilizer, and I just mix half of its concentration in water, and I water my plants every 15 days with that kind of a solution. So that was about fertilization, watering, and sunlight of this plant. For me, this has never given me any issues with pests, so this is pretty pest resistant for me right now. If you ever see a spider mite infestation or a mealybug infestation or any kind of pests, let's say aphids or anything, you can use the neem oil solution. I'll put the link up above how you can prepare it at home organically, and you can just douse your plant with that water. Make sure when you are doing that, it's the evening time, and then the morning you wash off your plant and just keep it as it is, and the neem solution will take care of the pest infestation. So that was about this anthurium plant. The next one in my list is this gorgeous peace lily plant. I'll try to show you the bloom that it has. I'm trying to put it in front of you for the bloom. So here you see this bloom. This again is a modified leaf, and this is the actual flower of this plant. Its leaves are a dust magnet, so anytime you're watering your peace lily, if you can wipe off the leaves so they can photosynthesize pretty okay, and they are not having dust on top of them so that they cannot photosynthesize. Even for this plant to bloom, you can see I just have one bloom right now. That is because the place where I have put it, it doesn't get a lot of light. This again has the same kind of requirement as an anthurium plant, so you need to give it indirect bright sunlight for it to bloom a lot. So right now, since I don't have any such space where it can be indirect bright sunlight for this particular plant, and the leaves are very delicate, so anytime it gets in contact with the direct sunlight, you can see crisping of the leaves like this. So this is not good for the plant, right? That's why I have not kept it in the same place as my anthurium, because anthurium leaves are still a little bit more resilient than the peace lily leaves, and they will just burn out, so I kind of keep it away from that kind of situation. So the peace lily care is also pretty much like the anthurium. The only difference is you need to make sure that you are cleaning away the leaves of your peace lily, and this also needs to be moist. The soil, I'm using a very regular potting mix that come in a package. I use the same potting mix as my anthurium and peace lily. The fertilization is same. I use the liquid seaweed fertilizer on my plant. Pests, again, I have never seen a pest infestation for my plant, but if you ever see a pest infestation, use the neem solution, which I linked on the top before in my anthurium section, and I'll also put the link in the description box below, so you can take care of that. And when this plant is actually thirsty, it tells you the leaves would be drooping like this. They won't be perked up or sprung up like these ones. They're all sprung up. If I pull it down, it doesn't stay, it springs up. So when your plant is thirsty, it will just go down. So make sure you're dousing your plant with water. Make sure for both the plants your potting mix is a very well draining potting mix. They don't want to sit in water for long and have soggy feet. So good drainage, regular potting mix, liquid seaweed fertilizer every 15 days, half a concentration of or half the strength what is recommended. And these are the kind of blooms. They both have the same kind of requirement to give you blooms. Give them very bright and direct sunlight, and they will give you lots of blooms. And yeah, that was about the peace lily plant. Pretty easy to take care of. Another plant in this section is going to be this gorgeous Kalanchoi, or the Kalanchoi plant. So this one, many people after they bloom, they kind of throw it away. Don't do that. When the flowers have dried down, you can just chop them off and keep your plant just like a succulent care, like give them just like a care you would give to your succulents. These are succulents. They don't need a lot of watering, but they need a lot of sun. So necessarily you don't need to put it like outside on your patio or your balcony or on the terrace. What I have done, I have kept it on my south facing window, and it is getting kind of the sunlight that the south side gets, and it is the only barrier is the glass window. So that is the kind of light this plant is getting. I take care of it just like a succulent. I don't water it often. It gets water only once in a month, and there have been no pest infestations. The best part about this plant, about all three of these plants, is that their blooms last very long, like they don't die down the next day or a week after. They will. For my peace lily, a bloom would stay for a month. For my anthuriums, the bloom stays for like 2 to 3 months. I'm not kidding, they stay like this. And for the Kalanchoi, the blooms have been like this for past 2 months. So this is my first experience with Kalanchoi, but it has been a very rewarding one, and it is a beautiful specimen for your indoor plant. The only thing is you need to give them a very direct sunlight, if you can, only filtered through glass window. That has been my experience. And the fertilization that I have been given this plant is the same as I give my peace lily and anthurium. For watering, I use the regular tap water. I'm not using any filtered water or RO water for these plants. They do well in regular tap water. Also, I'm not keeping my water overnight. It's the direct tap water. I just pick it in my watering can and add the fertilizer and then water my plants. So that's what has been happening with this one. You can see the leaves are very succulent-like. They store a lot of water. They're thick, they don't bend easily, and that is the kind of care that your Kalanchoi would need. So for sunlight, it needs very bright direct sunlight if possible. So for indoors, south and west facing windows are best, and you don't need to put any partition of a sheer curtain or anything in between your plant and the sunlight. The glass is enough and it will bloom like this. The another one is going to be spring cactus. I know it's not in bloom right now, but this was how it was when it was in full bloom. This is a beautiful specimen. Again, I'm very hopeful next spring. It has been doing this for me for past 2 springs, so next spring again this is going to give me a lot of beautiful blooms, and they also last long, like 1.5 months, 2 months the blooms would last. And it's a typical succulent. Don't need to give a lot of water to it, doesn't need a lot of fertilizer, just needs a very as much sunlight as you can give to this plant. That is its only requirement. Doesn't do won't last the frost outside, so keep it indoor in as much sun as you can give it. So a south or a west facing window without any sheer curtain or barrier in between would be best for these plants, and the pest control would be the same. I haven't given any kind of fertilizer to my plant regularly. I just give it like once a year or so, and it does fine. Doesn't need a lot of fertilization or anything, and has been doing well. Another one is going to be a bonus one. The problem with this plant is I don't have the ID of this plant. Yeah, I have this plant. I lost its ID. If you guys can help me identifying this plant, that would be really helpful, and if you can put it in the comment section below, I'll love to know what plant I have. So this plant was on my south facing window, and hence you see some of the crisping of the leaves like these, or yellowing of the leaves. So I gave it indirect sunlight, so I brought it away from my south facing window, and now it sits between 2 south facing windows, so it just gets bright and direct light. And these are the kind of blooms that come up on this plant. They come up in clusters. These are the gorgeous blooms that come up in clusters. So I have no clue, and I was really very pleasantly surprised when it started blooming, because I was first thinking it to be a schefflera, a different kind, because I have a very big schefflera, and the leaves kind of looked the same, so I thought it's a schefflera, but I've never seen schefflera flowering or blooming. So when it started giving bloom, I knew this is not a schefflera, and it's my bad that I lost the ID of this plant. But yeah, this is giving me blooms. Help me out with the ID of this plant if you guys can, and I will be really very thankful for you for that. The care that I do for this plant is obviously very indirect light, not at all the direct sunlight on any of the windowsills. It is very far away from the windowsills, and I water it just once a week. and my fertilization is same as my peace lily and anthurium. So every 15 days the liquid seaweed fertilizer, half of the strength, mix in water and dousing the plant with it. So yeah, those were my plants, guys. Hope you liked the video. If you did, then please hit the like button and also consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't done so already. Thanks for watching. Bye.